There you are. Oh, I thought we'd have to do the show without you, Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasting will be a thrill. Grandpa and chill, grandson and friends. Podcasting Grandpa and chill will be a thrill, grandson and friends. With your hosts, Grandpa Bar and Brandon Fox, Finest Jackson and Sierra Dawes. This is Grandpa and Chill.
Do you want to sort of introduce yourself and tell us about your business and expertise?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry for the delay. Like it says, my internet's fine. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm Thomas Hinton, CEO of Circadian Health Systems, and I help people sleep better. Really, I'm a consultancy, and kind of give you a little background of where I started. I've been in sleep medicine for 13 years now, and I started off in the sleep lab doing sleep studies. And it was there where I had the opportunity to really learn and witness the architecture and mechanism behind sleep. So what it looks like. So I can say I know what sleep is. That's pretty cool. And so I took that continued education and training, went to go work for a private group up in Normal, Illinois, and then started working with a pulmonologist and running the sleep medicine part of his practice. So started doing more consulting and stuff like that. And little by little, I started helping friends and family with their sleep. They send me their friends and family. Next thing you know, I'm working with strangers. And then one day, this guy says, "Hey, you deliver information really well. You should do this for a living." And I said, I never thought about that. So July of 2019, I launched Circadian Health System. And it's been going really well. When COVID hit, it really put a damper on the momentum and traction that I had built up. But it's going really well now, working with some professional athletes and the general public.
Nice.
Wow.
So we talked about it in anticipation for you being on, but I know I've gotten terrible sleep my entire life. I think Sierra said she has troubles too, and Grandpa, I mean, he's 81 and cannot get a good night's sleep. It was just his birthday, actually. But I have sort of resigned myself to just being tired all the time, and it's interesting. I've never had like an avenue to talk to somebody who's an expert in it, but can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You said something about, it's okay. I got a question though.
Yeah.
You said something about pulmonary, like the heart. What's the sleep have to do with the heart?
So when it comes to the heart, when we sleep, that's where blood pressure control happens, right? And so once we reach those deeper stages of sleep, our body temperature drops, and so that's where that helps with our blood pressure control. So you see a lot of people that have blood pressure issues. First thing I ask is how you sleep. And it's like, oh, I don't go to bed till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, well, that's part of the problem, because that's during a time when our body is actually in one of our REM stages. So that's a huge problem when I hear that. But I mean, there's a multitude of different things that can cause high blood pressure, but sleep deprivation is usually one of them.
Wow.
Do you get frequent people that think that they can't solve their issues, and then you're able to find a cure for them? And like, what's sort of the most common problems with people's sleep?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So for the most part, people don't really understand in terms of sleep. They don't really know that can be a component that can affect their health. So they come in and they're just like, oh, I doze off at the wheel, high blood pressure, I had a heart attack. I'm just tired in the morning after sleeping 7-8 hours. I don't understand why. And so I like to investigate. So I'm a root cause person. So there's something behind the scenes that's causing that. And so we investigate. So I start asking them, do you snore? Do you, with depression, anxiety, all these different things. And so we test them for sleep apnea, and sleep apnea is probably the most common sleep disorder, that causes, or exacerbates health issues, or it can cause them.
For me, it's really weird because once I'm out, I can sleep until noon. I can sleep until sometimes 1 p.m. But I literally cannot fall asleep before 2 or 3, which is, it's kind of sad that you said it can affect the heart, because that kind of worries me. But what do you think that is? Like, just that like lateness of being able to
Well, that's
fall
what you
asleep.
call that's what we call insomnia. Yeah, that's what we call insomnia. And so insomnia, I mean, at one point in our lives, everybody experiences some form of insomnia. It could be, being nervous before a test, before you start your first day on the job. It can be a multitude of things, and we experience it, but it's just temporary, right? Really, like the only deadly form of insomnia is called, I think it's, if I get it right, familial fatal insomnia. That's very, very rare. But anyway, to answer your question, in your case, it's just insomnia. Our brains and our bodies are designed to know how to sleep. Really, it's just you have to teach yourself how to get out of your own way, and allow your brain to do the work.
Yeah.
Thomas, in your field, do you get into brain waves that you pick up electromagnetic waves from other living things?
No, so I'm glad you mentioned that because I watched the episode that you were talking about that. And I've never encountered or witnessed that before, where you can actually feel when something is around you based off of just your energy, and brain waves. I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, no, I've never gotten into that.
Well, I don't know whether it occurs for other people, but I know it occurs for me. I can sense when we just lost Thomas's video. I don't know about his audio.
I'm really curious what he has to say about your.
I think he's on Saturn.
Wait, who said Zoom a
I
bunch of
think
times?
Thomas. Sound like Thomas.
Fine. Hi, Jamia.
Hey.
Guess what?
What?
I only let you in so we could hang up on you because
Thank
apparently
you.
we're moving to Zoom.
You said thank you. That's funny.
Oh, okay.
So
Is
I'm gonna
that-
send you
I'll
a
be
new
expecting a
email
link.
within 10 minutes.
Is that what Thomas wants?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's what Thomas wants. Everybody wants to go to Zoom, so we're going
No,
to Zoom. All right. Uncle Tommy, this is Jamia.
Hi, Jamia.
Oh,
Hello.
good. No delay now.
No
That's
delay.
better.
Good old Zoom.
Well, Thomas, I was asking you about this issue that I have, that it depends on the situation, but it can keep me up or wake me up because it's a very powerful sense that I have. And I think you said that you're not really familiar with that. You haven't really got into that sort of thing. It's a telepathic situation. It's not that I know what someone is thinking but I can feel their emotion.
Yeah, that's really, really awesome. It's funny because after that episode, I texted Sierra and I was like, I think he's a Marvel character, because I've never heard of that, which I think that's pretty cool. Because I mean, obviously, we still don't know what our bodies can and can't do. We don't know what our brain can do. They're still researching that kind of stuff. So, that'd be really ignorant of me to say, oh, that's not possible. And so I'm not qualified to say that. So I think that's really interesting. Now, in terms of brain waves, I've seen them, but I've never been in a situation where, I've been able, myself, have I ever felt anything like that? Or anyone else that I've ever come across has ever done that. So that's pretty cool. They're the first.
Well, I think what happens if let's say you you pick up an emotion of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Say there's different emotions. It could be
Right.
could be love. It could be sexual. It could be whatever, upbeat, downbeat. But let's say you pick up an emotion of fear. Well, the brain automatically materializes something to go along with that fear.
Right.
That may not really be what is causing the fear. In other words, something that is affecting you in everyday life because you're picking up that negative or fearful emotion.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing to have this situation that I have, because most of what I receive is stress in society, and I can like come from out of town into a city, and I can feel the brainwaves of a whole city.
That's wild.
The overall brainwaves, but I can also feel the brainwaves of a small bug. I can feel the fear from a bug, and I know what it is, or I can feel the brainwave from my wife, because then I know it's from her, because as soon as she moves, I can feel the wave move. The brain is sending out a electromagnetic signal. It's actually chemical through the spinal column, and that, in order to, let's say, control your extremities or whatever, the voluntary motions. So those those waves are being sent out like an RF signal but I think it's like in the old days when you had AM radio, and you'd get like two channels at the same time. FM doesn't do that, but AM does. And I think somehow it's a question of sensitivity, but also it's a question of me having lost the filter that filters out the other brain waves. So I'm not certain entirely which one or whether it's both.
Yeah.
So I just thought you might have some knowledge of that.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, if anything, when it comes to like fear, love, like different emotions, it usually is a result of experiences that we already have, and then we see those. So, example, like I watch a lot of scary movies, right? And so when I take the dog out late at night, something will be wrestling, somewhere in the grass, and I'm like, oh man, that's probably one of those things I just saw, that I saw in that movie, and so then that fear comes over because I saw something that's making me think that could be, you know what I mean? Or like emotions with love, you know what I mean? Like, so a lot of these things are just different experiences that we've had or encountered. And then our subconscious kind of says, oh yeah, hey, we've done this before. And then just kind of brings that back forward. But that's the only answer that I have for that. But I think that's really interesting that you can do that. I wish I could do that, to be honest with you. You have to share that secret with me if you know.
Yeah, and it's not something that I have any control over.
Ah, okay.
I have no control over that. Well, I do to some degree. It relates almost to a nervous disorder in my jaw.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's how it comes about, and that's why people maybe grind their teeth or whatever they do.
Right.
So anyhow,
that's interesting.
Was curious.
Yeah.
You go, Finest.
Let's see. I thought it was really interesting that you looked at it. You look at doing your job like an investigator. Like you're looking at trying to figure out why they're having sleep issues or why they're having high blood pressure. I think that's really cool. And it makes me think of like CSI, but for sleep.
Yeah.
And what else did I pick? Oh yeah. I do have a question. I don't know if you'll be able to answer it either, but I know there's like different types of people in the world. Like there's night shift people and people that wake up early and have those different types of things. How do they get healthy sleep?
So that's where I always say it's not good to fool Mother Nature. Because as humans, like we weren't designed and or built to be able to work third shift. We're not supposed to. And so I worked thirds for 9.5 years. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you're completely shifting your sleep wake cycle. So we have what's called a circadian clock or circadian rhythm. Okay. And our circadian clock governs sleep. Okay. So like there's certain things that happen at certain times of the day in our circadian clock. Like, for example, around like 6 or 7 o'clock, our bodies start to relax and just gradually start to prepare us for relaxation. Right. About 9 o'clock, our brains start to release melatonin. Okay? Melatonin is produced and released in the pineal gland in our brain. Okay. At like 10 o'clock or 10:30, our bowels get shut off. Okay. And then our cortisol levels start to go down. So cortisol is the stress hormone, and then at a certain time in the morning, our bowels wake up, other organs and, different parts of our body start to wake up. Our cortisol levels start to increase, so that we can take on, the stressors of the day. So when you work night shift, you're completely you're destroying all of that. Because what happens is, and this used to happen to me all the time, at about 3 o'clock, about 3 or 3:30 in the morning, I would just hit that wall, right? And like I'm always live. I like to have fun and joke around and everything like that. So when I was doing sleep studies, my coworkers called it the Tommy time, right? Because about 3:30, between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, I would just shut down, and I was quiet. It's funny anymore. I don't want to talk. Don't look at me. I just leave me alone, And then because what's happening is that your body knows that this is a time that you're supposed to be asleep, and so it starts trying, just like a computer, it starts trying to like hard shut you down, like a cold shutdown, and it's trying to force you to go to sleep. And so you hit that wall, and it's just like you're kind of sitting there, you're just kind of like kind of woozy, and then like after your body's like, oh, that's not what we're doing, great, and then like you just kind of get that boost and you get that second wind, but that's not healthy, because again, around 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, your body is supposed to be transitioning into those deeper stages of sleep. And those deeper stages allow our bodies to replenish the nutrients and the oxygen that was used throughout them. Structural damage happens in our brains as we're using them. Like right now, as I'm delivering information and when you're all listening to it and digesting it, structural damage is happening. You can't feel it or anything like that. Oh, maybe Grandpa can. But what happens is when we sleep, our brain cells actually shrink, and pulses of cerebral spinal fluid come in and actually flush and rinse out those toxins and byproducts that were deposited. So that's why the next day we were more energized and we were more focused and we have more clarity. And so when you're think about this, like a third shifter, like when I did third shift, typical third shift schedule is like, 8 to 8, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And so when you're doing that, you're working those 12-hour shifts, but then like if you count the time you have to wake up to get ready for work, count the time you have to go back home and like and prepare and shut and relax and shut down, that's like a 15-16 hour time frame. And then you only get to sleep maybe for 6 to 8 hours of that, so you never get to make that back up, so you're constantly robbing from what we call a sleep bank. And when you rob from that sleep bank, you can't pay that back. People are like, oh, I'll just catch up on sleep. Well, yeah, like you're catching up, but not if you're not paying it back, you're not getting that back. And so that's a real problem that the physicians are having, that law enforcement's having, first responders, anybody that works their shift, like they're having those issues, and it causes what's called shift work disorder. And so like your body now starts to operate on the schedule, and it's hard to get that back. It took me 2 years. It took me 2 years to get back on track, working day shift, because my body, I don't want to say it got used to it, but it tolerated it. You know what I mean? And so it's really, really hard to get it. And that's not good for your health, not good for your cardiovascular health or for your neurological health.
But Thomas, even during like your 9th year, your body still wasn't fully adjusted to the graveyard shift?
No, it's not supposed to. Like we're not, because people say, oh yeah, I'm used to it. You're not used to it. You just tolerate it. I tolerated it because I had to, because that was my job. You know what I mean? I still had issues all the time, like I was a zombie, I was just, I was there. I was there, but just not mentally present all the time. I was forgetting things. My skin looked terrible, because when you sleep, growth hormone is released in sleep. 75% of growth hormone is released during stage 3 sleep. You know what I mean? And so that's what helps with, with skin, exfoliation and stuff like that. Collagen, like all these different things are happening. Sleep is one of the foundations of our health, and as a society, we don't prioritize it, and we've proven that over and over and over again with mistakes that have been made, in history, and stuff like that. And so that's why I exist, is to help people understand how and why sleep directly impacts their athletic performance. If they're not an athlete, their personal performance, their heart health, their brain health, and just different things, and just overall health, it's important. And so that's why I exist.
So let's say you live on the East Coast of the States and you move to Japan, and you deal with that crazy 12-hour time difference. It is the reason that you're able to adjust to that better than say a graveyard shift is literally because of the sun. Like the body can just tell, or how does that work?
Yeah, so that goes back to our circadian clock. So when I work with people, I tell them, like get out there and get sunlight, because that sunlight helps our bodies get in sync with our environment. Okay, so that information is being taken in through our eyes. Okay, so our eyes are connected. Our optic nerve is connected to what's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Okay, and so the information gets fed through our brains. That suprachiasmatic nucleus takes that information and it feeds it to our brain. Hey, it's light outside. Turn melatonin off. It's time to be awake. And so when people are traveling, like for example, I have a decathlete that I'm working with, and I'm helping him get ready for Tokyo. Okay, because they're doing the Olympics this year. So I told him when it gets closer to the time for you to report, to Tokyo, we're going to work out a plan on what's going to be the best fit for you to acclimate to that environment as soon as possible. Okay, so it might be, we'll leave in the morning and you might get there at night. You know what I mean? Which is great, because like you're leaving when it's daytime, and by the time you get there, it's nighttime, and so instantly your body's like, oh, time to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Or you leave at night, you sleep on the plane, and then by the time you get there, it's light outside. So now you're automatically in sync with that environment instantly. You know what I mean? But you've got to follow that plan. So to your point, yes, like it can easily be done.
Yeah, I heard of. Was it Mike Tyson who lost a huge fight because they traveled overseas to like Asia?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Buster Douglas.
Buster Douglas was that? Yeah, and like
Happens
lost
all the time.
And yeah.
Yep, it happens. It
Crazy.
happens all the time. So that's why currently I'm working with Chicago Sky, their WNBA team. Just real quick, if you don't mind. And so like
Wow.
I'm working with the coach. Eventually going to be working. If they decide to contract with me, like I do this thing where I'm doing like a little trial with 4 players and 2 of their coaches, and one is the head coach who's also the GM, and so he's doing great. So like I wanted him to do great, because then that kind of let's get a contract going. But if we do, that's going to be one of the things I'll be working with them on is recovery, and traveling to different parts of the states. If we go to the West Coast, if they go to the East Coast, that matters, because the East Coast, they're an hour ahead. West Coast, they're 2 hours behind, and that matters. It really does, because when your body is used to going to bed or preparing for bed at a certain time, then you go somewhere and it's like, wait a minute, it's 7:00 p.m. Normally it would be 9. Why aren't we going to bed? And it just throws you completely off. So yeah.
That's super interesting. I remember when I went to a pain clinic for my back, they were suggesting to kind of what you're saying about just going outside even like a little bit every day, like in the morning, would help. They said it would help you fall asleep, or just get your body, like even especially if you already have trouble falling asleep because of like whatever pain, just being outside for a little bit in the morning can, like you said, like help reset your clock.
Yeah, absolutely.
What time it is. Yeah.
And vitamin D production as well. I didn't know this until about a year and a half ago. I was talking to somebody and they're like, how vitamin D is produced in our bodies? I'm like, yeah, the sun. They're like, well, it doesn't necessarily come from like the sun rays. What happens is that the sun activates the production in our skin. So that's where our vitamin D, we get our vitamin D from the sun. Technically, that the sun rays hit our skin, it gets activated and it produces it. I didn't know that. I just thought maybe the sun rays had a vitamin D in it, and it was just like, boom, vitamin D.
Just casual vitamin D.
Just casual vitamin D, but it doesn't work that way. So, I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize how that works. So yeah.
Jamia, how the hell are you?
Yeah, Jamia.
I'm good.
I didn't even get to talk to you because we had chaos as soon as you got on. How are you doing?
I'm good. I was actually just thinking about like asking him like what exactly is it that he does, because I didn't hear like exactly what it is. Like, what's your job?
Yeah, so I'm what's called a sleep performance coach. Yeah, and so I work with athletes, non-athletes, and I kind of like I told them, I help them understand how and why sleep directly impacts their overall performance. whether they're, career, whether they're career-based athletes, whatever. I work with mental health. I work with pediatrics. So it doesn't really matter. I have a target population, but I'll work with anybody. Because I try to do this whole Oprah thing where I'm like, everybody gets service, and a friend of mine, Courtney, who has a very, very good business mind. She was like, time out. Like, you can't do that. And I was like, yeah, I can. She goes, no, you can't. She's like, in order to be elite, you can't be available, or accessible to everyone, right. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, I like that. And so she's like, so you can, so you can help other people outside of your target population, but just focus on this. And then you can work outside of that, and I was like, okay, so that's what I've been doing, and it's been working pretty well. So she knows what she's talking about.
So cool.
Okay, well, I am a former night shifter. I nursed for 5 years, and I did night shift up until the 5th year. And I would say, like, it's hard for me to go to sleep. Like, at my set time, I'm usually like a 5 p.m., 5 a.m. worker, 7 p, 7 a, 6 p, 6 a. But I call it like that's when all of my oil begins to flow at night. Like I'm the most creative at night. And I don't know, I guess my body just didn't get used to it because I heard that you said it tolerated it. But it's like I'm not really a morning person. So it takes me a few minutes to get going in the morning. So I'm trying, like, with the whole career change, like doing life coaching, stuff like that. I don't know. Like, I maybe just like my schedule is from 10:30 to 6:30, 10:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. to kind of give me that leeway in the morning time. So I don't know, like I need to be up sooner. Because like, but wait, let me go back. During the night, I'm not able to sleep. Some nights I'm woke to pray for people. And then some nights I don't know what the heck am I doing up, but I want to be asleep. My body feels like, okay, I need rest, but my mind isn't resting, I'm guessing. So
no, that's a real thing. No, that's a real thing. And here's the thing too, is that people have what's called chronotypes. So one of the things that I do, when I work with a client, I do what's called a chronotype assessment. So your chronotype is really when your body wants to go to sleep and when it wants to wake up, right? Everybody's chronotype is different. So like my chronotype is they describe them through animals. So I'm a bear. Okay. So my bedtime is about 9:30. I get up about 5:30, 6 o'clock. Like that's my thing. If I go to bed any later than that, like I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't make it, and so that's my time. And then I am most productive until about, I'd say about 4:30, p.m. And then I'm shot. And so what I do is I tell people, like schedule the most important tasks of the day during that time when you are most productive, right? And when you're the most focused, because then you'll get that shit done, right? And so that's what I tell people to do. So you're a chronotype. So you're what's called a lark. You're a night owl is really what you are. And so your body has acclimated to that kind of schedule. So when I worked third shift, like I said, I did it for 9.5 years. Like I had to force myself to be active and to be like live and to get going. You know what I mean? So working like a 7P to 7A 12-hour shift is way different than a 7A to 7P. A 7A to 7P is way different than a 7P to 7A. Right? Because that 7A to 7P, like you're supposed to be awake during that time.
Right.
So at a certain point during your 7P schedule, once you get to 10:30, 11, midnight, you're not supposed to be awake.
No. And when I first started off, I used to get so sleepy around that time, or maybe like 1 a.m. to 3. That's really when my body wanted to shut down. And then I really just got used to it. Like I could stay up all night. And then when I moved to morning shift and worked 7A to 7P, I mean, like I could stay up the entire night before, get 45 minutes of sleep and run that 12-hour shift. Someone
Oh,
is
that
out.
is so not healthy. That is so not like it. That is so not healthy. Because I mean, I did the same thing when I was trying to reacclimate to a day shift. I guess I think I was talking about this when we were on the other platform. But it took me at least 2 years to get back on track. And it takes that long because for 9.5 years, like that's all I've ever done, was 7P to 7A, and so now my body's like, well, wait a minute, like I thought we were doing this whole late night thing. So there would be times when I'd be up until about, midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I just had to keep training myself that we're doing something different. And that's what people have to do. They really have to buy into that process of making that change. The first 30 days is the most important because your body needs that time to acclimate to that, but I mean, for shifters, it's really, really hard. It's really, really hard. And that's why, that's part of the reason why the nursing suicide rate is as high as it is. The nursing and physician suicide rate is really high.
I'm telling you, that does a number on your body because you're getting off work and then you're trying to force yourself to sleep because it's light outside and your body knows that it needs to be up and be productive, but the light it wakes you, so you're forced to put up dark curtains to pretend as if it's night. So that's crazy. So what would you the dreamers, the ones who are up dreaming, having like visual like mad visions at about, I would say, the hours of 3:30 a.m. till about maybe 6 a.m.
You mean like nightmares?
Like, not even nightmares, just seeing things that
lucid
will
dreaming?
happen. Huh?
Like lucid dreaming?
Basically.
Okay. So like with lucid dreams, like those are like with lucid dreams are ones you can control. And so what's interesting about those is that the only way that you can control those dreams is if while you're dreaming, you recognize that you're dreaming. That's the only time you can control those. So I've only done it one time in my life, only once. And I had so much fun because I could do whatever I want. I could fly, and then oh, I want to be rich. And then I just had money and I had cars. Like I did everything I wanted to do in this dream because I knew I could control it. I recognized that I was dreaming.
Well, what about the ones that you can't control? Like when you're receiving messages from the Lord at the time, and it's like, okay, well, I'm up in the wee hours of the morning, and then I have to be up. So, like, well,
are you seeing? Let me ask you this.
I can't even say that it's healthy or unhealthy.
Let me ask you this: are you seeing what you're dreaming about? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
so that's what
it's like a dream, but more of a vision. It's like I'm up, looking and listening to what's going on.
So like my wife has these things called hypnopompic hallucinations. And so what happens is that when she's in that REM cycle or that dream cycle, her body, wakes up during that REM cycle, like before it's able to like work itself out. And so then she ends up seeing what she's dreaming about. And it's really, really creepy. Like when we first met, like it was really, really nuts, because like we started dating, and then I was spending the night, and then like she'd wake up like, do you see that? And I'm looking like, what the fuck? Like, I see what? And she's like, the face is in the corner. I'm just like, no, I don't know. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, I watch way too many scary movies to be doing that shit, And so I'm just like, I don't want to look in the corner. Like, I'm just not going to look. They get me. I don't even care, And so, yeah, she had these things. Yeah. So she has these hallucinations where she wakes up and she actually sees what she's dreaming. She still does it now. She'll wake up and it would be like, look at the TV. And I'm like, what's wrong with the TV? And she's like, it's moving. And I'm like, no, it's not. And then like she gets mad at me if I respond to her. So I just don't even respond to her anymore. Yeah. But in terms of like messages, like for you, like when it comes to like messages from the Lord, I can't really speak on that.
Yeah, it's a different realm.
It's a totally different realm.
I just want to know, like, have you ever encountered people that have those, or has even tried to, I don't know, dig deeper into it? Maybe not.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing So anyone here, like, you've heard of Sigmund Freud, right? Okay, so he was a little ahead of his time, you know, in the medical perspective, because there are a lot of things that people didn't understand he was trying to do, and he was a little off with that stuff. But again, like I said, he's a little ahead of his time. So I read his entire interpretation on dreams. If you ever get the opportunity, look up, you know, his interpretation. And he says that dreams are concealed realizations of repressed desires. I love that quote. Love it. You know, because if you really think about, you know, certain dreams that you've had, and like you were doing something that normally in wake life you would never think about doing, you know, like that's what he's talking about, you know, because it seems like in dreams, you know, we don't really care what's going on. Like the weirdest things are happening and we're just like, yeah, fine, you know, and you just go with it. You know what I mean? Like I'll never forget, I had a dream one time that I was walking through a graveyard and I was being chased by a female vampire. Okay. First of all, I would never be walking through a graveyard. So that's number one, you know, and then number two, you know what I mean? And number two, like I would never be in a position where I'm being chased by a vampire. So I don't know where this came from, but I'm being chased by this vampire through this graveyard. And I find this old abandoned like castle, right? And it's lightning outside, storming. And number three, I would never go inside of a castle like that in real life. But I went in there because I'm running from this vampire. And so I go in there and there's these like sandbags like stacked up. And so like I have nowhere to go and I turn around and like she's like coming at me, fangs out and everything. And then we start making out. Like what is that? You know what I mean? Like why did that happen? You know, I thought she was trying to kill me and then we just ended up doing that. You know, and it's like in the dream, like I didn't fight back. I was like, oh, it's fine. You know, and it's just really weird. But what Freud said was he said that symbols and objects and even people in our dreams are actually representations of ourselves, and we just have to figure out, you know, how they correlate or overlap. Like, what does that mean? I've had patients that have said that they felt they've gotten messages from God in their dreams, like, hey, you know, like he showed me this, and then like, you know, during that day it happened. You know what I mean? And so it's like, really? And so they kind of walk me through, you know, like the scenario. And it's like, oh, wow, that's really, really weird. Like, oh, I had a dream that, you know, that my son got into a car accident, you know, and the next thing you know, it's like, and he did, you know, like that day. It's just really, really weird stuff. So people
I can
actually.
give you one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Too. Like one day, I went back to sleep and I always used to hear this knock, just go boom, boom, or a thunder. Or thunder, and it would scare me, and I'm waking up like, okay, is someone at the door, you know, looking or whatever. So I'm like, okay, no one is at the door. So I was directed to I think First Samuel or something in the Bible, and it was an instance like that there. So in that instance, the Lord was wanting him to invite him in, say, hey, your servant is listening. So the next time I heard the knock, I said that and I went back to sleep easily. Man, it's like I went into a trance, like super heavily, and I was showed a series of things that were going on in my life. And there was this one particular person that I was talking to, but it was so strange because the person was here, I'm on this side, but I'm hearing another voice. This voice is this distinctive voice that I always hear when I know that it's the Lord. And he was telling me, hey, you have to stop talking to this person because you have trusted him more than you've trusted in me. And for that reason, you all must disconnect. So and a few more things, and he say, go on, an engagement is about to take place. So, you know, I didn't understand. I woke up with this deep heartache, like I had been heartbroken. And I kid you not, this happened in April, then November. I finally disconnected. I gave him the confirmation because I was confident in that. And he was like, you asked for it. So I'm like, okay. So from May till November, not realizing that I'm up in the wee hours of the morning in November and I'm writing it and I'm hearing the Lord tell me to write out my vows. So I'm like, okay, I'm writing. It's still hope on this end for this person. But this same day, this exact same day, this person proposed to someone else.
Oh, wow.
And that was the engagement, and that was my heartbreak. I felt what I felt in that vision previous.
That's deep.
Like, it was really, 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 really. So
that's deep.
Yeah.
That's wild. Well, I will tell you this.
Happens.
That's wild.
So I'll tell you this. So like people have actually like worked things out in their dreams that they can't take care of in the wake life. So that's one of the theories. The thing about sleep in general and dreaming is that no one can come out, even like the top expert in the world can't say this is exactly why we dream or this is exactly why we sleep. We don't know why our body's going into
because it's just knowledge.
Yeah, there's nobody knows exactly why our body is going into this dormant state of vulnerability, right? We just know how we feel and what happens after we get a good night's rest, right? So we're just going off of how we're feeling. So, you know, like Phil Mickelson, like he fixed his he's a golfer, like he fixed his golf swing, you know, in his sleep, went out there and it worked. There have been stories of engineers who have been like working on something, they can't fix something, and then in their dream,
and they get shown the tools and see how it's supposed to be put together.
They wake up, they go into work, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll try this, and then it works. So our brains. So that's one of the theories of why we dream is that our brain is our body is trying to make sense of certain events and things that have happened in our lives, and it's trying to categorize them and say, okay, when did this happen? When did that happen? Did this happen on this day? Did this happen on that day? And that's part of the reason why, like, you know, you can start off in your office or in your car, and then you get out of your car, then you're in the gym where you went to high school. You know what I mean? Like, you know, just different things, random things happen because our eyes are taking in, even though like I'm looking at you guys right now on the screen, like our eyes are taking in information that we can't make sense of and that we can't really see. And so when we sleep and we dream, that's the time that our brain, you know, that's the time that it takes like to consolidate all that stuff. So like short-term and long-term memory consolidation, like our brains go through that. And so like it gets rid of stuff it feels that we don't need, and then it keeps stuff. And it's weird because it's like we don't have a say in any of that at all while we're sleeping. We have no say into what, you know, what's kept and what's taken and what's saved. We just know that when we wake up, you know, we're able to recall the information in our memory bank, and then we go from there. You know, so it's just crazy.
But are you saying that there's not strict science on sleep and dreams of like the reasoning behind them and stuff? Like,
no, they're all theories.
We haven't figured it out.
I was going to say theories. Everything is theoretical.
No, they're all theories. They're all. If you come across somebody and they say, "I know exactly why we dream,"
that's a lie.
Run away from them because they have no idea what the hell they're talking about. They're all theories. That's all we have to go off of because we don't know exactly why. We don't know why we dream. We have no clue why we do it. You know, like we've, you know, MRI and CT has like shown different things. Like when we go in the REM, our brain actually warms up. You know, and then that the hippocampus, that's the part of the brain that does short-term and long-term memory consolidation, right? And so it's also one of the first areas of the brain to take damage when it comes to like oxygen deprivation and stuff like that. So they know that, okay, during REM, that part of the brain is active, that piece, so that hippocampus, what they call it the seahorse lobe, because it's kind of shaped like
when is it most active?
During REM.
Yeah. Okay. And the REM hours of the sleep is
well, there's multiple. So that our bodies go through about 4 to 5 different REM cycles a night. Each one lasting longer than the previous. So our last REM cycle lasts about 45 minutes to an hour. So those can start, you know, one can start at 10 o'clock, you know, then one can start at 11 o'clock. Then about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you should be going through a REM cycle. Yep. Because I don't know if you've ever noticed, like if you've ever waken up from a dream, like in the middle of the night, like if your body's ever like cold or if you're ever like chilled, well, that's because when we go into REM, our body temperature drops to room temperature. So kind of quick thing here, that's why room temperature matters, you know, when it pertains to, you know, your sleep environment, because the cooler the better.
The body goes from 98 all the way down to like 70s.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy.
So I'll tell you this.
I'll be sitting on 68 in here.
So and that will say that's the recommended room temperature, sleep environment, 68 to 69 degrees. So as our bodies prepare for sleep, like at night, our body temperature naturally drops. Okay. So it'll go from like 98 to maybe like 85 or something like that. And then when we go on the REM, it drops to room temperature. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's so low.
It is very low. Yep.
But depending on the room you're in, so if you're sleeping in a really, really cold environment, it would dip down to that.
That's very bad. I don't know if it'll if you're like in like 50 degree, I don't know if it'll drop down to like 50 degrees, but it'll get as low as 68 to 70. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the pieces of advice I've heard is get it colder than you're comfortable because it'll help you fall asleep. Yeah.
Yep. And it'll help you stay asleep. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, like, it's kind of like nutrition, right? Where there's so much not strict science and a lot of different things that are thrown out. And I've, as someone that just has a terrible time with sleeping, like I never know what to believe and I haven't figured out something that works yet, like how do you, in your work, like you're doing this day in and day out professionally, like how do you decide like what works, what you do with your clients, like that kind of thing?
Feedback.
Yeah.
Just strictly feedback. I try to take as much of the technology component out as possible, because a lot of that stuff is not accurate, and I hate it. I mean, there's a good place for it, but it's just not as accurate. And I'll give an example before I answer your question. So I'll go back to my decathletes. So the Olympic people would ever give him like a disc that goes under his bed and that monitors his sleep, right? He sends me that data twice a week, and so he'll send me the data. And so I saw, I'm like, oh man, one night it's like, oh dude, that's really nice. Like, that's really good. You fell asleep in 10 minutes. And he had to end up telling on himself because he's like, that's not true, because I was on my phone for an hour, which he wasn't supposed to be doing. And I was like, well, see, that's a problem. That's a 50-minute difference. Like, that's a problem. Like that I don't like that. That's false data. You know what I mean? And so, we're not going to use that data anymore. So really, I just when I do my follow-ups with my clients, they know how they feel. They know how they felt before we started working, and then they know how they feel, once we started working. The head coach, the GM of the WNBA team, like he was way off the reservation. He was going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. I now have him going to bed at 12:30, and he feels amazing. He's like, my wife wants me to thank you because my energy levels have been off the charts. Like I'm doing housework, inside, outside, like stuff that I've never done. I usually pay somebody else to do. He goes, I'm doing these things now, and I'm just like, that's a win. Like, that's amazing. So he knows how he felt before it, and then he knows how he feels after it. And so I go off of that data, the feedback that they give me.
We've got another guest coming. She's been ready. Thank you so much, Jamia.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Nice
Have a
meeting
good
you.
night.
Nice meeting you as well.
Nice meeting you. You're getting very sleepy.
Jamia, do you
Yes.
have any social media or plugs or anything you want to?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, of course, Talk That Talk Mia on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter.
Great. Awesome. I hope to have you back soon. Yeah. It's really nice having you.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Yeah. Grandpa gets really good sleep on this show.
You're getting very sleepy.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, here's, if you don't mind me saying real quick. So as we age, our sleep naturally deteriorates. So that's why it's really, really good, as you get older, to really maximize and prioritize your sleep, to get the best, benefit from it. Because as we get older, we just don't, this doesn't work as well anymore. Like we don't go into REM as much anymore. We don't go into the deeper stages anymore. So yeah, absolutely.
Damn.
Is it true that really, really old people need less sleep?
Yes and no. Because again, if your sleep deteriorates as we age, it's going to get less and less. So it gets to the point where there's really nothing that you can do about it at that point. So that's why it's good to, when you can, to prioritize it and maybe, try to kind of trick your body or hack your body into, thinking that it can sleep more as you age. Because like, again, we don't go into REM as much, like, so those 4 to 5 REM cycles that we reach a night. Well, as we get older, when we get like in our, 60s, 70s, 80s, it gets down to like 1 or 2, stage 3 where growth hormone is released, our stage 3 sleep declines as we get older, which is part of why, we start breaking down and falling apart, because now we don't have that growth hormone to help heal and repair our organs and different things, and our skin and stuff like that. So it's just a natural cycle that we go through.
Is that why I'm shrinking and falling apart?
That's part of why you're shrinking and falling apart. you don't have enough growth hormone to come in and help rebuild everything and repair everything.
Well, can I get it from somebody else?
Maybe you can get it from the brain waves. I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah.
Azumi, what is good?
Hey, how are you?
Great.
Hey.
We've got Thomas here. He's our sleep expert today.
Yeah.
Hi, Azumi.
Hello.
Questions.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I have a couple questions. I don't have any sleeping problem right now, but I have a simple questions from me, and then my best friend. We just met yesterday, and we just talked about like how struggle she is every night. So it's a very good timing. So I texted her saying like, hey, I'm going to talk to a sleep expert tonight. So if there's anything you want to ask, and she gave me a couple of questions. So I have actually 3 questions in total.
Okay.
Okay. So the first question is for me. So I don't have any sleeping problem right now, but in the past, I had like a weird dream, or it's not just a dream, but while I was sleeping, sometimes I had a headache, and then I wake up in the middle of the night because of the headache. Or some of the times I had like in my dream, I was screaming. That kind of dream, I had that kind of dream for like some period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was wondering if there's any reason behind it.
Like stress is like the biggest culprit behind a lot of sleep issues that we have.
Mm.
And when we dream, and I was kind of explaining earlier, when we dream, that's the time that our brain is trying to make sense of all these different things, right? So let's say if you had a stressful day, like college students, people with like high paced, careers and stuff like that, where they're constantly on the go, they're moving, constantly trying to, be successful. And that's stressful, or someone that has, financial issues, or they're doing finances, in their bedrooms and stuff like that, or just in general. That's very, very stressful. Family things that they have going on, medical issues that they have going on, stressful. And so when we dream, that's our bodies or our brain's time to try to figure out or try to help you take care of something that you can't normally deal with in wake life. And so sometimes that's a way for people to get their stress off, just by screaming. Sometimes that's how their body responds to that stress. Like, well, okay, we couldn't handle that stress while you were awake, so let's try to take care of it now. So what I recommend people do is dream journals. I do it all the time. So like I'll wake up from a dream, because 75% of dreams are not remembered. So really the only time that you remember your dreams is when you wake up right out of that dream cycle, REM cycle. And so when you do that, I always recommend like to have like a journal or a piece of paper or pad and pen or whatever next to their bed, nightstand or whatever. And then when they wake up, write it down. Like write down what happened in the dream, and then write down how it made you feel. Well, actually write down how you felt in the dream, how you feel about it now, and then what it means to you, and then why you think and where you think that dream came from. Why do you think you had that? Right? And I'll give you an example. So there was a guy, and I read this article. There was a guy who was going to his therapist, and he's like, I keep having this dream that like I'm a prisoner, and like there's I'm attached to a ball and chain, and it's like when I try to go somewhere, it's like I can't move, or it just takes forever for me like to get going. And so he starts talking about his personal life. Are you married? Yes, I am. How's your marriage? Oh, it's this and that and this and that and this and that. Come to find out, it was his subconscious, kind of like telling him, hey, like your marriage is weighing you down. This is why you can't move. And so like they ended up getting a divorce, and then the dream stopped and he was happy.
Damn.
So there's always they always say that there's messages, in our dreams. We have to figure out how they correlate to us, how they apply to us. And so to your point, just think about the different things that are happening in your life, whether they're stressful or not. Write that stuff down and then just kind of go back and do like a process of elimination. Say, why am I having this dream? What does this dream mean to me? So I would do that.
Yeah. What about the headache?
Oh yeah. So in terms of the headache, do you snore?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
But I don't know. But I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay. So normally, when it comes, just I'll say in my experience, when it comes to the headaches, usually like if someone has like sleep apnea, if they're stopping breathing in their sleep, and there's oxygen restriction to the brain, can cause the headache. Even snoring, which is a partial obstruction of the airway, that can also cause headaches because of the oxygen restriction to the brain. Now, anything outside of that, I don't know.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. Okay, so can I ask you some of a question from my friend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
So, first, we talked yesterday, and then she said she always have this sleeping problem. Seems like her father or mother, I forgot, but her parents have the same issue, and then she's always tired. She always feels like she cannot sleep well. But the problem is she feels like her brain is working super actively just before going to bed. So it's like it's so hard to fall asleep, even though she feels super tired.
Yeah.
And that makes her tired the next day, but she can't sleep. So like she has to go up, wake up every morning. Like she has to go to work. So maybe 7 a.m. ish, but she cannot fall asleep until like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. So first, for her first question is, how can she fall asleep right away?
Okay. So routine development, that's really, really important. So when I have clients that are having issues, that when I do my consultation with them, I listen to what they are doing, but I'm also listening to what they're not doing. And so then when I customize and personalize the plan for them, it's like, okay, we're going to do routine development. So I do a routine assessment. Do you have one? If you do have one, what are you doing? So with the routines, it's what you do leading up to going to bed. Okay. But you also have to have a decent bedtime as well. So having a set bedtime and a set wake up time is really important. So sometimes just tweaking that alone makes a difference. Right. So, so creating triggers that your body and your brain recognizes leading up to bed. So like brushing your teeth or taking a shower, before bed, that helps. That's a trigger. So eventually your brain's like, okay, when we do this, we end up going here. So it'll start naturally preparing you for bed. Taking a shower or bath helps because yes, it's hot when you're in there, but when you get out, what happens? You cool off. That helps accelerate that cooling process as our bodies are preparing us for sleep, right? And then I have my clients. I have them if they wear pajamas, if they have like clothes that they wear at night to bed. I have them put those on in the bedroom before they go to bed because again, that's a trigger. Let's say if they don't wear anything, okay, fine. Like when your brain sees you taking something off and then going in the bed, eventually that becomes a trigger. So then your body recognizes that as you're leaving. Can you still?
She looks like she's asleep.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, there you are.
Are you there?
The sleep expert got to you.
Yeah. You froze.
Did I fall asleep?
Yeah, there you are. I should take a picture. I should have taken a screenshot. But anyway, but yeah, so forgot where I was at. But yeah, creating those triggers really, really helps. Breathing exercises, like there's all sorts of different things that she can use as tools. And she froze again, to help her prepare for sleep. So it's all about. Can you hear me still, Azumi? No. Yeah, she froze. I got
Yeah.
to
She's
take a
really, really
Oh,
into
dang it.
what you said, though.
Yeah,
Grandpa?
intimately.
Yes, Azumi's video is not functioning right now.
Yeah, but she stopped in like a pose that,
Yeah.
you know.
It looks, yeah.
But while she gets back, I did want to ask, because we do have a lot of sort of more grandpa's age listeners and stuff.
Yeah.
With what he was talking about, whether it's a superpower or a curse, right? It's still really negatively affecting his sleep.
Yeah.
How would you help that? And like, what would you do if he was a client in your office?
So the first thing I would do, when I do my consultations, I try to get a better sense of like, well, what is your daily life like? What is your daily schedule like? What things are you doing, during your day that leads up to how you prepare for sleep at night? Because those things matter as well, So like if you're constantly, like I have a client that constantly crams everything like in her day, and so she's just overloaded. So then when she goes home, she gets home so late, she ends up eating late, right? And so then eating late, that's bad for you. So I go through all these. Sorry, like I kind of go off the reservation sometimes. Anyway, so for him, I would try to get a better sense of what his daily schedule, what his daily life is like leading up to preparing for bed. And then I'll start implementing, different things into his routine to help him prepare, help his body better prepare for bed. So then the initiation of sleep is a lot easier. The transition into sleep is a lot easier. So I always ask people like, well, what do you do before bed? Do you have a routine? And normally it's always no. And so then I start putting the different things in place, like I was telling Azumi, to create those triggers, for his brain to recognize and say, oh, okay, well, when he does this, we end up going in here, so then that process naturally starts to happen. So that's what I would do.
I only ever eat right before I go to bed.
Oh my gosh, that is the worst.
Yeah.
You want to know why? You want to know why
I can't sleep otherwise, it's crazy. Yeah.
You want to know why that's bad? Is because, again, remember I went through the whole circadian rhythm thing, or circadian clock. So like your digestive system is not supposed to be active during sleep. So when you eat before bed, your body has to do something with that. It has to metabolize it. It has to break it down. And so your sleep, it deprives you of reaching those deeper stages of sleep, because now a function of the body that it isn't supposed to be active is now active. Just like with alcohol intake, like your body has to metabolize that. That's why you don't feel that good the next day after you drink alcohol, because it deprives you of your different deeper stages of sleep, because your body has to be active in getting rid of it and breaking it down, and it's not supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
No more eating before bed.
Alcohol. So drinking too much alcohol. Sorry, I was sleeping. So the alcohol is not gonna help, right? But
no.
What about just a little bit of like nightcap? Does that no, not at all?
Yeah. So the recommendation is like, like alcohol is fine, but within 2 to 3 hours before bed.
Oh.
Okay. Because again, your body has to break it down and metabolize it, and it shouldn't be doing that while you're sleeping. That's why, like, if you ever have a couple beers or a couple of drinks, and like, of course, alcohol is a sedative, but then you go to sleep and you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, like I feel terrible. Well, yeah, because your body couldn't transition into those deeper stages of sleep because it was busy trying to break that alcohol. Yeah. So that's why it's not good to do that.
What were you gonna say, Grandpa, a minute ago?
Can't remember.
I have a question. Okay, so when I was a child, I was in grade school, and some kind of sleep specialist man came to talk to us for some reason. And he was explaining how children kind of run on their own clock. It's like a different clock than adults. Like adults can kind of function from like, I don't know, let's say like 7 to 7 or something like that, or 7 to 8. And he's saying like that for children, like as you're growing and your body's developing and everything, their clock was more like 9 to 9 to 7 or something like that. It was like a shorter range and a totally different time frame. And I remember when he said that at the end of the lecture, they're like, does anybody have any questions? And I was like, I have a question. This man just told us that we shouldn't be waking up until like 10 o'clock. So why are we starting school at 8 o'clock this year? And
that's so you.
and I was like, so does that mean we're going to follow the advice of this like expert, this professional is telling us not to do this? Because it was the year that they changed it from 8:30 to 8 and everybody was pissed. Yeah. And so I think the principal just told me to mind my business. But what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts? Like, what would you advise to like children or like child athletes or just like kids trying to work on like they're like really kids have to work on their parents' schedules. Like, what is your like kind of tips for that?
Yeah. So, I mean, really it's up to the parents, you know, cause they're the ones that have to you know, instill those limits or boundaries. Right. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to kids, and this goes back to the whole like growth hormone thing, you know, so children, they require more sleep than adults do, because their bodies, like you said, are still developing, and still growing. So 75% of that growth hormone is released during stage three sleep, which is the stage of sleep that children spend the most time in, which is why sleep is very important for their mental and physical growth and development. So at your age, when you were at Peoria Academy, your body required 10 hours. Mm-hmm. You had to have that, because you're still growing, you're still developing, your bones are still growing, your brain's still developing, right? There's certain parts of the brain that still aren't, like the frontal cortex. That's where like reasoning and everything, it's not developed yet. That's why they say like with teenagers, you know, like, oh, give them a break, you know, because the part of the brain that you know, that processes reasoning and consequences, it's not fully developed yet. And it's really not. So that's why, you know, when we, you know, we're 16, 17 years old, we think we're invincible because we have no sense of consequence. Right. Now, you know, you can use that as an excuse if you want, but you know, teenagers know right from wrong. Mm-hmm. But that's a real thing. And then like as they become teenagers, I don't know what, I don't know if it's a transition to puberty, but once they become teenagers, their bodies are actually built to stay up late and then sleep in late. Mm-hmm. It's really weird how that transition happens. Now, not all of them do that. Like some can actually go to bed at a decent time and wake up at a decent time, but just biologically as a teenager, your body's going to transition into staying up late and then sleeping late. You know, so parents just get all upset and like, well, that's actually that's not their fault. It's their body doing it. You know, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And it's like, well, yeah, so just leave them alone. Let them sleep in. You don't let them sleep until like 10 o'clock in the morning. Get your ass up, you know, and get them doing some stuff. But no, nothing past 8 p.m., 8:30 or 8:30 a.m., 8 to 8:30 a.m. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, no, it does. I wanted confirmation that I was right. Mm-hmm. When I was
you're definitely right. Now, Azumi, did you have a third question? You said you had.
Yes, one more. What kind of pillows do you recommend?
In the beginning, I don't. I try to because the body is designed to do everything naturally on its own. So I try to get people. I try to help them reprogram their bodies to initiate sleep on their own. So now I am a fan of.
No, sorry, pillow, not the pill.
Oh, they said pills. Oh,
sorry,
okay.
Pillow.
Yeah, pillow. Like memory foam pillows. Those are great. Like down pillows. Oh my gosh, like those are amazing.
How do you feel about those cube pillows?
I haven't seen those.
Oh, which one?
Yeah, there's like I keep seeing ads.
YouTube ads everywhere.
Yeah, it's literally just a cube, and they're like, "Oh, this is great because it fills like your neck gap, and it like is supposed to perfectly fit right here."
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I mean, there's so many different pillows out there; it's unreal. But yeah, I'll have to look that up. But yeah, but in terms of I would say like down pillows, memory foam pillows. It conforms to your body, and like to Sierra's point. You know, with that alignment with the neck and the cervical spine and stuff like that, the hips and everything, like everything gets into alignment. So yeah, like I like those. I even bought my wife a hip a hip pillow, so it goes like it fits between her legs, and it helps her keep her hips in alignment when she's laying down.
Mhm.
So there are different things you have to do. Like self-care is very, very important, and it takes a lot,
Mhm.
And so like I always tell my clients, like you have to fall in love with the process, with that process of taking care of yourself. So like no matter what you do or where you go in life, you have to take your body with you, so you
Mhm.
have to take care of it, right? Because if you don't, then it'll break down, and then you'll be like, well, I don't understand, and it's like, well, because you weren't taking care of yourself. And sleep, like again, is the foundation of all of that. That's where it all starts. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a side sleeper, and I always have to sleep on my right side. And
Mhm.
I sometimes wonder, like, oh, is that gonna unbalance me? Because I do have a lot of like alignment issues and stuff. Is that fine? Is there a preferred side to
Yeah.
sleep on?
No, side sleeping's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, if that's what you like. I mean, I think, see what happens is our bodies, we move about 8 to 10 times an hour. We have to, to prevent blood clotting and stuff. So when you're sleeping, you don't realize this, but eventually you do end up on your back. You end up on your left side, and you end up on your right side, probably end up on your stomach sometimes. And then we may finish off in the same position that we were in. Like I'll do that. Like I always, always, always start off on my left side, always. And sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be on my right side. Sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be on my back. I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. Sometimes like I'll end up waking up on my left side, but I know that at some point I've transitioned into different positions.
Gotcha.
So you don't just stay like that the whole time.
Mhm. Good to know. Wow.
How does release of sexual tension affect sleeping?
Brandon.
Because I noticed you avoided that subject, but I would think that it would have something to do with restful sleep.
Oh, it does. I mean, it's a form of exercise. You know what I mean? Like any kind of exercise, actually, helps with the release of like serotonin and melatonin and stuff like that. But there's something to your point. There's something there's a chemical that's released like after when we're doing this, and obviously after we're doing that, that for some reason it's just like go to sleep. Like I don't know exactly what it is. Like I didn't really dive too far into that part of it. But there's something that happens because the big joke is with men, like after we release, we just we pass out and fall asleep. And so like there's something chemically that happens that causes us to do that. Almost kind of like when we eat turkey, you know what I mean, and we get tired. You know what I mean? I don't know what that is, but I'm glad you said I start looking into that.
Yeah.
Fine.
So
yeah.
since you talked a little bit about the pill, not the pillow, pill.
Yeah.
So my friend is a little bit afraid of taking any kind of sleeping pill or even a melatonin
Yeah.
because of the side effects. Do you think so? If you keep taking even the melatonin or any kind of sleeping pill, that's gonna affect you badly? Any kind of side effects?
Chronic use, yeah. So like I was saying, like I am a fan of like melatonin and certain sleep, like natural sleep aids, but initially I try to get your body to initiate and to do these things on its own, because it was designed to do it that way. And if that doesn't work, then we can go into maybe adding melatonin or adding like what's called cherry tart juice, because people don't realize that cherries have melatonin in them naturally. So you go to a natural food store and you can get some like a bottle of cherry tart juice. You mix it with water and you take it about a half hour before bed, and that's supposed to help. Anything liquid form always it's more effective anyway. But in terms of like sleeping pills, like the heavy hitters like Belsomra and Lunesta and Ambien, like those are like those are what we call hypnotics. Like I don't like those because they just don't make people feel good.
ZzzQuil?
Oh yeah, like ZzzQuil, but that's not a long-term thing though. So if I do implement these things with my clients, with their routines or with their programs that I have for them, it's only like for a week. So I have them like take these things for a week to help their body get reset, and then we discontinue it. Because even though this is what I hate. So even though like they say, oh, it's not habit forming, all these different things. Well, no, not molecularly, but psychologically, it can become habit forming. Like I have a friend of mine who's a firefighter, and he was like, I have to have a sip of NyQuil before I go to bed. The sip is like, it's like this. I'm like, it's not even enough to do anything. But psychologically, he's become psychologically dependent on it. So now he has to have that sip in order to feel, like he's doing something. I got him away from that now. So I hate when they, it's not a habit forming. Yeah, but it's not on a molecular level, just on a psychological level, it can be. And so that's why I do this. I add it for a week and then I take it away, because I don't want you to get psychologically dependent on taking something and then feeling like that's what's helping you move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Finest, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Always. No, I guess it's not for 10 minutes, like last 10 minutes, but when I was taking notes and hearing you talk, I kept saying like, okay, we're definitely animals because, we need the sun and nature. And I guess that made me realize we're not nocturnal. Mm-hmm. So at first I was like, you have to have a night person and a day person to keep society running, but we're animals and not a society. So I guess my question would be, is capitalism kind of like hurting us to getting our sleep done and getting
capitalism would never do that.
Because you also talk about like people sleeping and having an idea to make a song or write a movie or do a play. Yeah. Well, it seems like it'd be beneficial for all society if we got more sleep to reflect on things.
Mm-hmm. Oh well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like sleep deprivation, it causes you to deviate from protocol. It causes you to have difficulty with mood regulation. It affects a bunch of different things, decision making, it affects that as well. Excuse me. Irritability, all these different things,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to cut you. Like, what would you do if it's a perfect world and you were the sleep Oprah? How would you cure the night shift then? Would you just have like, I don't know. How do we fix this?
There's no cure for night shift, because if you're talking about like law enforcement and like in medical, like hospital, there's no way out of that. You know what I mean? Like if there's a fire, like the firemen aren't like, oh, sorry, like it's 2:00 in the morning, can't be there. Someone gets shot and they call the police. Sorry, can't be there. Like you can't do that. Right. You know what I mean? Or if somebody comes in the ER, like, oh, we have a gunshot wound. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's still my bedtime. Like you can't. So like there's things that you have to have third shifters for, mm-hmm. And it sucks because they're the ones that end up suffering in the end. But at that point, all you can do is just try to help them and teach them how to maximize and take, I guess to make. How can I word this? I guess to maximize their sleep as much as they can, along with their shift. That's all. I mean, that's all you can do right now for them, for that population.
So
I did make you into a sleep Oprah too. That's giving away sleep.
Nice. I like that. Very good.
Going on the gram.
You get sleep and you get sleep.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Everybody
that would
gets
be
sleep.
A great company logo, man.
Yeah, but not to further answer just real quick. I know we're short on time, but in terms of like decision making, yeah, like if you think about it, since the dawn of the digital age, if you look at over the last every 5 to 10 years they do a study to see how much sleep has been lost in each generation. And so if you notice, like it started in like the late 80s when like technology started to advance, so more and more we were losing sleep because things were more available to us. Mm-hmm. Video gaming, Game Boy, PlayStations, like all this stuff is coming out now. Social media is here now. It used to be when I was a kid, convenient, self-satisfaction or instant gratification. So when I was a kid, or even when I was in high school, I guess kids still, and there was a favorite show that we watched. Okay, well, it comes on Monday night.
Damn.
Uh-oh.
It's frozen.
Okay.
And Brandon's gone.
Hey, everybody, everybody get on the Zoom call. We gotta get on Zoom. Zoom is the bee's knees. Let's get on Zoom. Brandon's not even in the call
my
anymore.
favorite show.
Yeah. Oh, he's back.
You know, I don't have to wait till the next week to watch my favorite show. You know, I can watch all 10 episodes tonight. You know what I mean? And so like that's also is what's affecting society with our sleep, because we view it as just just a convenience, you know, or a weakness or an indulgence, and not as a requirement, which is what it is. So I always tell people, you know, we can afford to sleep because we're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, keep spreading the word, because I think I fall into the latter of at least you can be. I mean, as I'm getting older, I started to see importance of sleep, but I'm also like, oh, I gotta be grinding all the time. I gotta be doing something. So
yeah, prioritize your sleep. Get a routine, get a schedule, stick to it, and I guarantee you'll feel better.
I like it. All right, try, and I'll try out that interpretations of a dream.
Yeah, check that out. It's really neat.
Wait, my last question. How can she find you? What is your...
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, like a phone number, email address, like what are you looking for?
Personal
like
address.
we need, like,
we're gonna drop all of Thomas's information in our show notes, and also at the very end he can like say all that stuff at the...
Oh, he froze too. Oh, look at his face. Look how he froze. Can you see it?
Oh, we gotta use Zoom, guys. We gotta use Zoom. Everybody, Zoom is great. Zoom.
Sierra, excuse me. It was way better than what it was. You can hear me. You can see me. It's not like
that's true. It's true.
Yeah.
See?
You need to figure out who's mining Bitcoin in your house, because everybody else was doing great, and then you got on and it wasn't working.
Well, can we make sure Zoom gets my information?
Yes.
Okay.
We are running out of time, though. I would love to have you back, Thomas. This has been amazing.
That was great.
Oh, absolutely.
But we always do last thoughts. I'd love to hear, Grandpa, do you have any last things, questions for Thomas?
Well, not really. Other than to say that I found for myself, and I think I have a different issue. I have some of the same issues that we've been talking about, like eating, snacking at night, and so forth. But one thing that I've found is if I have a condition or I have a problem at a certain time of night with sleep, and I get up and I don't try to sleep, but I do something else, then later on I go back to sleep, then I'm okay, rather than fighting it and trying to to fall asleep when I'm not able to.
Yep, that's very good. That's what I tell my clients to do. Like if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't sleep, just recreate that process that led up to it. And
but you're a very interesting guest, and I certainly hope you'll come back on, Thomas. Because
oh yeah, thank you very much, and I will.
Yeah.
Sierra, last thoughts.
I think this was fun. This was actually probably the least technically difficult episode we've had this year, and I think my mom's probably gonna cry because she has 2 family members on the show today.
Oh, she's probably already doing it,
but she could. Yeah.
Tell her to come on if she wants to.
I'll tell her. She'll do it.
Cool.
That's my thought.
Azumi.
Yeah, it's very helpful, and we had no technical difficulty, and but this is a good idea, like call in some expert and ask him a bunch of questions and talk about it. That's fun. So let's do this again.
Yeah, come back on, Azumi. We'll have you for every expert.
Yeah.
And if you're an expert at anything, I'd love to ask you.
Japanese.
Oh, cool.
Anything Japanese.
We'll do an episode. Finest?
No, I learned a lot. I appreciate it. A lot of cool things to think about and to go look up. So that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And lastly, Thomas, before we get your socials, anything you want to say to our listener?
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching and having me on. And good night and sleep tight.
Sleep tight. Boom. And then where can our audience find you?
So you can call, text 309-840-5644.
Oh, hold on. 309.
Oh, sorry. 309-840-5644. You can find me on the gram, and I forget what my thing is. I got to look at it myself. You can find me. I'm TH Sleep Coach.
TH Sleep Coach.
Yep.
Thomas H. Yeah, Thomas Hilton.
Yep.
Nice.
TH Sleep Coach.
Sleep
You can find me on Instagram.
Instagram?
Yep. Instagram. Yep.
Okay. No dot or dash or anything.
Nope. All run together. TH Sleep Coach.
Okay.
All lowercase.
Okay.
And you guys can find all of his info in our show notes as well. Yeah, this is amazing. I want to have you back on because of this food right before I go to sleep thing. I mean, I'm like addicted to it. Like that's 80% of my
You're about to
calories
change his
right,
whole life.
right
How
before
can you
bed.
do
Holy
that?
cow.
Yeah,
That's a whole
I
other
know.
conversation. That's a whole nother
It is.
conversation.
I'm not gonna get into it. Yesterday, 3 p.m. I had like 800 calories and then 11 or 12 like the rest of them. So we'll hopefully
Yeah,
we'll
that's
hopefully
crazy.
talk about it soon.
Yeah.
We love you guys. We're so grateful to Jamia, Azumi, and Thomas Hinton. Thank you so much for coming on. And we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Podcasting with Grandpa Bart and Rosie, always on his shoulder. This is Grandpa and Chill.
Grandpa and Chill is brought to you by your hosts, Brandon Fox, Bart Frank, and Finest Jackson. Our producer is Sierra Doss. You can find episodes old and new on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch the show, and follow us on Twitter for behind-the-scenes moments you can't get anywhere else.